In a video discovered by investigators, 16-year-old Sierra Halseth and her boyfriend, 18-year-old Aaron Guerrero, can be seen giggling and joking about the brutal murder of Sierra's father, Daniel Halseth. It's a chilling sight to behold. Two teenagers who appear carefree and apathetic about the heinous act of violence they committed just 3 days before. Acts of violence are already hard to fathom, but the situation becomes more perplexing when a parent becomes the victim and the perpetrator ends up being their own child. What would motivate a teenage girl to kill her father? And is there more to this case than initially meets the eye? If you enjoy exploring true crime stories and delving into the dark side of human nature, then I invite you to subscribe to my channel so you never miss on new content. It was April 9th, 2021, when Christine Halseth, Daniel's mother, began to grow worried. She had not heard from her son in several days, despite her efforts to reach him through calls and messages. Christine reached out to her granddaughter Sierra to inquire about Daniel's whereabouts. Sierra assured her grandmother that Daniel was all right and that his phone was just broken, causing him to miss calls. But Christine had a gnawing feeling that something was terribly wrong. Unconvinced, she contacted Daniel's landlord, Peggy Newman. When Peggy went to the house, she found that the front door was wide open and the smell of smoke filled the home. After calling firefighters to the Halseth home on Dunphy Court, firefighters on the scene noticed smoke billowing from the garage. When they extinguished the small fire, they were horrified to discover the lifeless and mutilated body of Daniel Halseth. No one could have imagined that the person responsible was Daniel's own daughter. Daniel was born in Estacado, Oregon, and came from humble beginnings. His family owned a farm and from a young age was instilled with a hard work ethic and family values. As he grew up, Daniel was known for being a genuinely good person who had a passion for music and eventually became a skilled piano player and drummer. He also developed an interest in computers and technology. After graduating high school, Daniel would move to Salem, Oregon, and completed his bachelor's degree in music at Western Oregon University. But his thirst for knowledge drove him further, and he pursued a master's degree in business from Corbin University. It was during his time in Oregon that he crossed paths with Elizabeth Schwark. Elizabeth was beautiful and, like Daniel, extremely hardworking and ambitious. They quickly hit it off and developed a romantic relationship. Shortly after Daniel completed his master's degree, the pair got married on March 16, 2001. Several years later, and the happy couple had embarked on a new chapter in Las Vegas, Nevada. They had 3 beautiful children, and Elizabeth's political aspirations flourished. In a move that shocked everyone, Elizabeth, with the help of her husband and his technical expertise, began an aggressive campaign for Senate and would beat candidate Senator Dennis Nolan to become a Republican member of the Nevada Senate. It seemed like all was well with the Halseth family, but that would all change on October 21, 2011, when Daniel was arrested for an alleged domestic dispute involving his wife. While Daniel denied the allegations, being that the family was in the political spotlight, the news of his arrest spread quickly across Nevada. As everyone would later find out, the dispute had started after Daniel discovered his wife, Elizabeth, had been having an affair with a man named Tiger Helgelian. The scandal would significantly impact Elizabeth's career, and she would resign in 2012. The Halseth family crumbled in front of the entire world, and the once married couple got divorced soon after. As Daniel tried to rebuild his life, his focus was on his 3 children, but even that would seem to slip away. Elizabeth had been granted primary custody of all the kids and moved to Alaska with them to live with Tiger. She would eventually marry Tiger, leaving Daniel absolutely devastated. Daniel threw himself into work and tried to spend as much time as he could with his kids. He moved on and got married to a woman named Bogdana, but his second marriage also fell apart. Still, he and his second wife remained close and continued to share a bank account even after the divorce. When Elizabeth decided to leave Alaska and return to Las Vegas, Daniel was elated. It meant he would be able to see his children more often. By late 2020, despite Elizabeth having full custody, Daniel's youngest daughter, 16-year-old Sierra, moved in with him. In August of that same year, Daniel took Elizabeth to court in an attempt to get custody of Sierra, who, by that point, was the only minor of their 3 children. It only made sense since Sierra was essentially living with her father anyway. Daniel pleaded to the judge that Sierra was better off in his care and that she had been struggling with mental health issues and he had enrolled her in therapy. Daniel and Elizabeth still had a hostile relationship and instead of coming to a compromise, would only argue and accuse each other. Ultimately, the judge ordered that Sierra return to her mother's residence. Daniel would begrudgingly oblige. Sierra, however, was determined to live with Daniel, and she would end up sneaking out of her mother's house to stay with her father. The contentious custody battle over Sierra raged on relentlessly for the following months. Despite the court order and Elizabeth's protests, Sierra defied both and continued to live with her father. It was around this time that Sierra began dating 18-year-old Aaron Guerrero. Daniel was disapproving of this budding new relationship, and when he caught wind of their plan to run away together and start a new life in Los Angeles, Daniel put his foot down and prohibited Sierra from seeing Aaron. When Daniel met with Aaron's parents, they agreed the teenagers should not be seeing each other. For a time, it seemed to have worked out, but the truth was that Sierra and Aaron continued to see each other, but they were growing increasingly frustrated by Sierra's father's unwillingness to let them date. It didn't take long before the pair came up with an idea that would remove Daniel from the picture completely. On April 8, 2021, Aaron made an escape from his own home to retrieve Sierra. Fueled by their shared resolve, the two orchestrated a plan that would forever alter the course of their lives. They stole $1,300 from the bank account Daniel shared with his second ex-wife before embarking on a chilling shopping spree to purchase a chainsaw, a circular saw, a handsaw, and lighter fluid. They also purchased a plastic drop sheet and disposable gloves. At some point within the next 24 hours, Sierra and Aaron would stab Daniel to death. They attempted to dismember his body with the saws they purchased but failed, instead setting the house on fire before fleeing to Salt Lake City. The withdrawals from several different ATMs around Las Vegas from the joint bank account notified both Daniel and his second ex-wife, Bogdana, as being potentially fraudulent. This was extremely unusual, and neither Daniel nor Bogdana had used the account for any transactions since their separation. Bogdana tried calling and messaging Daniel with no luck. She knew that Daniel was extremely close with his mother, Christine, and that they spoke almost every day. Bogdana called Christine and asked her to check up on Daniel. But after Christine couldn't get in touch with her son, she reached out to Sierra. "Hey Sierra, I'm trying to get a hold of your dad. Where is he?" Christine messaged her. Sierra texted back, "His phone has been acting up, but he's okay. It should be fixed by tomorrow night, no worries." Tomorrow would never come. After her communication with Sierra started raising red flags, suspicions began mounting. Christine sought the help of Peggy Newman, Daniel's landlord, but tragically, Daniel's lifeless and burned body would be found shortly after in a sleeping bag inside the home. An autopsy would later reveal that Daniel was stabbed 70 times, including 42 times in the back. One stab wound cut through a major artery in his neck and both his lungs were punctured. He sustained wounds to his shoulders, hands, wrists, and fingers. At least one of the wounds appeared to have been made by a saw. He was brutally mutilated before being put inside a sleeping bag, which was then set on fire. He would suffer burns to 40% of his body. While searching Daniel's home, the police found a new chainsaw on the ground in the living room. In the kitchen, there was a bloody circular saw, as well as a handsaw and 2 folding knives. They noticed that there had been an effort to clean up the crime scene and found receipts from a Home Depot and an ATM. As fate would have it, the veil of secrecy began to unravel with the discovery of crucial CCTV footage. The footage revealed Aaron's presence at the Home Depot, meticulously selecting the very saws and gloves that would later be found in Daniel's home. Meanwhile, footage from a grocery store captured Sierra's composed demeanor as she purchased 2 gallons of bleach and a gallon of orange juice. When an ATM surveillance video showed Sierra using her father's debit cards, it didn't take long for investigators to put the pieces of the puzzle together. It was undeniable. On April 13th, Sierra and Aaron were stopped by transit officers in Salt Lake City after they got off a light rail in the downtown area without paying for tickets. When the officer ran a background check, he was stunned to discover that both were wanted in Las Vegas for murder. They were arrested on the spot. The police were able to track down Daniel's car, which the teenagers had stolen. Inside, they discovered a bloody rug. Investigators were even more shocked and appalled by what they would find in Sierra's phone, an incriminating video of the pair lying in a tent, joking about the murder they had just committed 3 days earlier. It was clear that the two teenagers had no empathy for the life they took. "It was worth it," Aaron says.
Welcome back to our YouTube channel.
Day 3.
Day 3 after murdering somebody.
Whoa! Don't put that on the camera.
It was worth it.
The couple was charged with Daniel's murder, as well as conspiracy, arson, robbery, and fraudulent use of a credit card. They had initially pled not guilty to the murder of Daniel, but in May 2022, they changed their pleas to guilty. The teenagers were sentenced to life in prison with the possibility of parole after 22 years. In this disturbing video found on Sierra's phone, you can see Aaron slapping her face and putting his hands around her throat as if to choke her. At a glance, it seems all in good fun, but it likely speaks to the power dynamic in the relationship and begs the question, was this act the culmination of simmering conflicts or the product of a sinister influence? The Halseth family have been left grappling with the weight of unimaginable tragedy. What began as a seemingly ordinary family faced a descent into darkness that would lead to a devastating loss. Despite the darkness that engulfed his story, memories of Daniel Halseth's love and care for his children remain imprinted on the hearts of those that knew him. It was the one thing about him that was universally agreed upon. Daniel loved his family. He was a dedicated father who would do anything to protect his children. But in a twisted and tragic case of irony, it was Daniel who needed protection all along. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to support the channel by liking and subscribing, and hopefully, I'll see you in the next one.